The ice planet was an unforgiving realm, its surface an endless expanse of frozen desolation. Towering glaciers loomed like ancient sentinels, their jagged peaks gleaming under a pale, distant sun. The atmosphere was thin, biting cold seeping into even the thickest layers of protection. This was not a place for weakness. Survival here required precision, resilience, and ingenuity. The storms that swept across the land came without warning, their icy winds capable of stripping away warmth and hope alike. Few had ventured to this world, and even fewer had returned to tell their tales. Standing at the center of this alien wasteland was a figure of authority, an alien professor renowned across the galaxy for his unyielding skepticism. His species, the Relentless, prided themselves on their intellect and technological superiority. Their features were sharp and angular, their translucent skin glinting faintly in the cold light. The professor's elongated form was draped in thermal cloaks, his expression one of condescension as he addressed a group of gathered spectators. Among them were representatives of various advanced species, all here to witness what the professor had declared a definitive test of humanity's capabilities, or, as he put it, their inevitable failure. Humans, he began, his tone dripping with disdain, are a species driven more by stubbornness than intellect. You boast of your adaptability, your ingenuity, but here, on this world, none of that will matter. The ice planet does not forgive inadequacy. His words were met with murmurs of agreement from some of the spectators, though others remained silent, their eyes flickering toward the lone human standing nearby. The challenge was simple in its premise but monumental in its execution. Build a shelter capable of withstanding the planet's deadly conditions. And not just any shelter. An igloo, crafted from the snow and ice that surrounded them. The catch? It had to be completed in under 10 minutes, a task even the professor claimed was impossible. Your species, he continued, has neither the precision nor the efficiency to achieve such a feat. This is not a matter of pride but of reality. You cannot outpace the elements. The human, a figure of unassuming demeanor but steady resolve, stepped forward. They were not an elite soldier or a renowned scientist but someone who had grown up solving problems with their hands. A builder, a survivalist, someone who understood the value of practical skill. They said nothing in response to the professor's derision. Words wouldn't win this argument, and they knew it. The alien crowd observed with varying degrees of skepticism and curiosity. The Relentless professor, confident in his prediction, allowed himself a smirk. Very well, he declared. If you believe yourself capable, prove it. 10 minutes. No tools beyond what you carry, no assistance from technology. Let us see the true limits of human adaptability. A timer materialized in the air, counting down from 10 minutes. The humans stepped onto the frozen ground, their breath visible in the frigid air. All eyes were on them, and the weight of an entire species' reputation pressed down like the icy winds. The countdown began, and the human moved with an efficiency born of experience. They knelt on the icy ground, their gloved hands brushing away loose snow to find the compacted layer beneath. The first step was critical, choosing the right material. Too soft, and the blocks would collapse under their own weight. Too hard, and they'd be impossible to cut. The humans' eyes narrowed as they found the ideal patch, a mix of dense snow and ice, perfect for construction. Without hesitation, they began carving. The saw in their hand was small but sharp, slicing through the snow with precision. Each motion was deliberate, every cut calculated. The first block emerged, rectangular and clean, and was set aside. Then the second, the third, each one crafted with the same meticulous care. Time was slipping away, but the human didn't rush. Speed without accuracy would lead to failure, and failure was not an option. By the time the first layer of the igloo was complete, only 8 minutes remained. The blocks were arranged in a circular pattern, their edges snugly fitted to create a sturdy foundation. The human paused briefly, not to rest but to assess. The wind had picked up, flinging shards of ice into the air. They adjusted their stance, using their body to shield the growing structure from the elements. The cold was biting, numbing their fingers even through thick gloves, but they didn't let it slow them down. The second layer began to rise. The blocks angled inward to form the iconic dome shape. The human's hands moved with mechanical precision, lifting, placing, and smoothing each piece. Their breath came in sharp bursts, visible in the frigid air. The wind howled louder, as if the planet itself was conspiring against them, but the human remained undeterred. They worked faster now, their movements a blur of purpose. Halfway through the challenge, a gust of wind dislodged one of the blocks, sending it tumbling to the ground. For a moment, the alien spectators murmured, their voices tinged with satisfaction. The professor's expression grew smug. As expected, he muttered, loud enough for those nearby to hear. But the human didn't falter. They bent down, retrieved the block, and repositioned it, reinforcing the structure with additional snow. Each failure was met with adaptation, each obstacle with determination. The dome began to take shape, its curvature evident against the stark white backdrop. The humans' movements were fluid, almost instinctive, as they carved and stacked. They weren't just building a shelter, they were proving a point. This wasn't about tools or technology. It was about the ability to think, adapt, and endure. With 3 minutes remaining, the final layers were underway. The human worked with a precision born of necessity, every block fitting seamlessly into the structure. Sweat trickled down their face, freezing almost instantly, but they ignored it. The keystone, the final piece that would lock the entire structure in place, was prepared. Time was running out, but they weren't finished yet. The final moments of the challenge loomed, the air thick with tension. Snow swirled in relentless gusts, stinging exposed skin and threatening the fragile stability of the unfinished igloo. The human didn't flinch, their focus narrowing as the clock ticked down. Each movement carried the weight of urgency, but their hands remained steady, slicing and positioning blocks with unerring precision. There was no room for hesitation now, only action. With the structure nearly complete, the human reached for the keystone, the critical block that would seal the dome and bear the weight of the entire igloo. The block had to be perfect, its angles precise, its fit seamless. The human carved it with rapid yet deliberate strokes, their breath visible in short, frosty puffs. Time was slipping away, and the relentless wind clawed at the structure, as if testing its resilience before it was even finished. The alien spectators watched in silence, their earlier skepticism replaced with an almost begrudging respect. The professor, however, remained unmoved. His sharp features betrayed no hint of doubt, only the same smug confidence he'd held since the beginning. "It won't hold," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. No amount of stubbornness can defy physics. The human ignored the undercurrent of doubt, their focus unbroken. They lifted the keystone carefully, cradling it as though it were the culmination of all their efforts. And it was. The clock showed less than 2 minutes remaining as they positioned the block at the apex of the dome. The wind screamed in defiance, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire structure might give way. But the human had planned for this. They braced the keystone with additional snow, packing it tightly to reinforce the joints. The motion was swift, almost instinctive, born of a lifetime spent solving problems under pressure. With the keystone in place, the igloo transformed from a precarious assembly of blocks into a unified, self-supporting structure. It was complete. The humans stepped back, their boots crunching in the snow, and surveyed their work. The igloo stood solid and unyielding, a perfect dome against the stark, unforgiving backdrop of the ice planet. For a brief moment, there was silence, broken only by the howl of the wind. The alien spectators stared, their expressions ranging from disbelief to awe. Even the professor's smug grin faltered, replaced by a furrowed brow as he struggled to reconcile what he had just witnessed. The timer beeped, signaling the end of the challenge. The human exhaled, a deep, steadying breath that condensed in the icy air. They didn't celebrate or boast. Their achievement spoke for itself. The igloo wasn't just a shelter. It was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, a defiant response to the professor's dismissive challenge. The silence stretched on, heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. The human turned to face the crowd, their gaze steady, as if daring anyone to question the validity of their work. No one spoke, not even the professor, whose earlier confidence had been replaced by something that resembled reluctant respect. The professor's expression shifted as he approached the igloo, his previously smug demeanor now replaced with a hesitant curiosity. He ran a gloved hand along the structure, testing its integrity. The dome was flawless, solid, airtight, and perfectly suited to withstand the planet's merciless conditions. His sharp, angular features betrayed a flicker of something rare among his kind: humility. "This is unexpected," he admitted, his voice quieter than before. The words carried an air of reluctance, as if they had to be dragged out of him. He turned to address the crowd of alien spectators, his tone regaining some of its former authority. "The structure is sound. It meets the challenge's requirements." The humans stood silently, their face calm but not devoid of emotion. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was a moment that carried the weight of their entire species. They had proven that humanity's adaptability wasn't just a hollow boast but a fundamental truth. It wasn't about brute strength or advanced technology. It was about the ability to think, to solve problems, and to persevere. "Perhaps I underestimated your species," the professor said, his voice carrying over the murmurs of the crowd. He gestured toward the igloo. "This feat, while simple in concept, demonstrates an extraordinary level of resourcefulness, a quality I had assumed humans lacked." One of the alien spectators stepped forward, their translucent skin glinting under the pale light. "If they can survive here," they said, their voice tinged with awe, "perhaps their place in the Galactic Alliance is not as misplaced as some of us believed." The professor stiffened but didn't argue. Instead, he turned back to the human. "Tell me," he said, his tone almost conversational now, "how did you accomplish this with such limited tools and under such severe conditions?" The human finally spoke, their voice steady and unpretentious. "It's not about the tools. It's about understanding the environment and working with what you have. On Earth, we've faced deserts, jungles, mountains, and oceans. We've learned to adapt. This was no different." The professor nodded slowly, his mind clearly working through this new perspective. "Adaptability," he said almost to himself. "Perhaps that is a form of intelligence we have overlooked." The human took a step closer to the igloo, brushing a hand over its smooth surface. "Survival isn't just about intellect or strength," they said. "It's about resilience, the ability to face the impossible and find a way through." The crowd murmured again, this time with tones of agreement and admiration. The human's words carried weight, resonating with the spectators in a way that even the professor's earlier proclamations had not. The igloo stood as a tangible symbol of humanity's capability, a testament to their unyielding spirit. The professor finally turned to the gathered aliens. "Let it be known," he declared, "that humanity has met the challenge and proven their worth. Their ingenuity and determination are not to be underestimated." The human nodded once, their mission accomplished. They hadn't just built an igloo. They had built a bridge between doubt and respect, showing the galaxy that humanity's true strength lay not in what they carried but in who they were.